Welcome to Tales of the Famous, the channel that drags legends back into the merciless light of truth, that tears away the carefully polished masks of the untouchable icons, that dives without hesitation into the darkest corners of glory and takes you where no one else dares to follow. Behind the telephone receiver that Bruce Lee held in his hand on the afternoon of July 20th, 1973. Behind a voice that was already tired, already resigned, already saying goodbye without knowing it, behind the last private conversation the little dragon would ever have. A conversation so raw, so brutally honest, so full of rage and love and prophecy that the man who heard it kept it secret for more than 50 years. Because some truths are too heavy to carry alone. Because some truths feel like a premonition. Because some truths sound like a man screaming into the void just before the void swallows him whole. July 20th, 1973, Kowloon Tong, Hong Kong. The city is a furnace, the air so thick with humidity it feels like breathing soup. Bruce Lee is 32 years old, at the absolute peak of his powers, richer than he ever dreamed, more famous than any Asian man has ever been, on the verge of conquering Hollywood with Enter the Dragon, on the verge of finishing Game of Death, on the verge of proving once and for all that the world was wrong to doubt him. But inside, something is breaking. Headaches that feel like hammers on the brain, day after day, week after week. Dizziness that comes without warning, turning the world sideways. A body that was once carved marble, now thinner, lighter, almost fragile, the veins standing out on his arms like cords, the ribs beginning to show beneath the skin. 2 months earlier, in May, he collapsed on a Golden Harvest lot, seizures ripping through him like lightning, cerebral edema, doctors pumping mannitol into his veins while he lay unconscious, telling him, when he woke up, "Slow down, or you will die." He laughed in their faces. He went back to work the next day, faster, harder, as if daring death to try again. That afternoon, he is at Betty Ting Pei's apartment, supposedly to go over script pages for Game of Death, the film that will crown his philosophy, the film that will show the world what Jeet Kune Do really means, the film that will prove he is not just a fighter, but a thinker, a creator, a man who has something to say that no one else can say. But the headache is there again, the same crushing pressure behind the eyes that has been haunting him for weeks, the same pressure that makes the light hurt, that makes every sound feel like a drill in the skull, that makes him wonder, in the quiet moments when he is alone, if this is the price for everything he has achieved, if this is the bill coming due for pushing his body and mind beyond what any human should endure. He steps out onto the balcony for air, the Hong Kong skyline shimmering in the heat, the harbor boats honking below like distant animals. He takes out his little leather address book, flips through the pages with fingers that tremble just slightly, finds a number he hasn't called in months, and dials. On the other end of the line, in Los Angeles, Dan Inosanto picks up. Dan, one of his oldest students, one of the few men Bruce truly trusts, one of the few who understands what it costs to carry an entire culture on your back, one of the few who has seen Bruce cry after a training session because the pain in his back was so bad he couldn't stand up straight, one of the few who knows that behind the myth there is a man who is terrified of failing, terrified of being forgotten, terrified of being ordinary. The conversation is not calm. It is not polite. It is Bruce Lee unfiltered, exhausted, furious, prophetic, speaking as if he knows these are his last words on earth. Bruce doesn't waste time on greetings. He launches straight in, voice tight with frustration that has been building for years, frustration that has turned into something darker, something that eats at him from the inside. You saw the Tai Chi self-defense demonstration? You saw all that self-defense in there? It's all posturing, Dan. If you had been there with a foreign friend sitting next to us, watching the Gosu and the Bachu, Jesus, you would have been so embarrassed. Dan tries to calm him, to bring him back to earth, to remind him that not everything needs to be a war. Bruce cuts him off like a blade slicing through silk. They're cowards. They turn their heads while they swing punches, out of breath after the second round. They're pathetic, very amateurish. Dan, it's like a free brawl. Bruce, it's not even a free brawl. You watch Joe Frazier. That man uses his tools. He's relentless. These guys miss, they fall, they clutch, they wrestle. Even in Hong Kong, they call it little kids fighting. They do all the fancy stances, all the fancy movements, but the minute they make contact, they don't know what the hell they're going to do. And then the real fire comes, the fire that has been burning inside him since he was a boy in the streets of Kowloon, the fire that Hollywood tried to extinguish by stealing his ideas, the fire that is now consuming him from the inside as surely as the cancer that will be discovered too late. So what I'm hoping to do in film is to raise the level, really raise it, not just for Hong Kong, but to gain respect from the Western world. I'm not doing this for fast money. I'm doing this to uplift the quality. Dan, quietly, almost reverently, you have a real mission there. Bruce, that's right, man. I turned down Warner Brothers for the TV series. I'm selling my house in the States. I'm just bringing some books, some clothes, and that's about it. He pauses, and his voice drops, almost a whisper, as if he is speaking to himself as much as to Dan, as if he is confessing something he has never said aloud before, as if he is finally admitting the weight that is crushing him. It's really the simplicity. The more I search for myself, the questions are clearer. What man has to get over is consciousness, the consciousness of himself. If you can move with your tools from any angle, then you can adapt to whatever the object is in front of you. The clumsier, the more limited the object, the easier for you to potshot it. Dan, move beyond words. You've actually reached a point. You're becoming quite philosophical. You see the ultimate goal. Bruce laughs, but it's a tired laugh, the laugh of a man who has seen too much, who has carried too much, who knows the price of every victory. Well, I haven't yet been able to control my violent anger. Like if Lo Taiwan were man enough to walk up and slap me. That's the end of him. Dan laughs with him, but Bruce grows serious again, deadly serious, his voice dropping to something almost haunted, something that makes the line crackle with intensity. I've yet refused one challenge. Ever since I was in the US, these bullshit artists mention it. I accept. The first question I ask, do I have fear? No. Do I know his intention? Yes. So what the hell am I going to do about it, Ann? Nothing. That takes more than fighting. Dan, that sounds like maturity. Bruce cuts in, almost angry, as if the word itself offends him, as if the idea of stopping, of finishing, of being complete is the most terrifying thing he can imagine. Not maturity. There is no such word. Maturing man. Because when there is maturity, there's a conclusion, a cessation. That's the end. That's when the coffin is closed. Silence on the line, heavy, electric, the kind of silence that makes you hold your breath, the kind of silence that feels like the world has stopped turning. Then Bruce brings up Fist of Fury, the final scene where he leaps into the air, arms wide, bullets waiting. The scene that will become one of the most iconic images in cinema history. The scene that will be replayed 1 billion times. The scene that will make millions of people cry without knowing why. I walk out and I say, screw you, man. Here I come. He laughs again, but it's not funny. It's the laugh of a man who has already seen the ending, who has already written it in his head, who knows exactly how his story will finish, who is already standing on that rooftop with his arms open, ready to fly into the bullets. The call ends. Bruce hangs up. He goes back inside Betty's apartment. He takes an Equagesic for the headache. He lies down on the bed. He never wakes up. Dan Inosanto will keep that tape for 50 years. He will play it only for his closest students, in private, with tears in his eyes. He will cry every time, because in that call, Bruce Lee wasn't the dragon. He was a man saying goodbye, a man who knew the coffin was already being built, a man who screamed, "Here I come," one last time before jumping into the bullets. Tell us in the comments, no filter. Did Bruce know he was going to die that day? Was that phone call his suicide note without the suicide? Should we remember him as the god, or as the man who screamed into the void just before it swallowed him? Thank you for staying until the end with Tales of the Famous. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell. The next revelation is coming soon. See you soon. And sometimes the last words are the ones that hurt the most.